Can I beat Elden Ring and Hollow Knight Silksong at the same time? Many have struggled with traversing the worlds and defeating the bosses in these games, as seen by reviews on Steam, and some have even gone so far as to ask themselves, is this game too hard? Well, today I'm here to prove that no, they're not too hard. In fact, it's very possible to beat both these games at the exact same time, even if you aren't very good at either of them. I also just really wanted a reason to talk about these two games because I love them so much. How will he do it, I hear you asking? Well, playing two games with completely different controls at the exact same time with the exact same input would be pretty hard to pull off. Thanks to YouTuber CJ, who did a similar challenge but with Hollow Knight and Silksong, I was able to get my hands on the Shuffler app. This app, by that account blah 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 over on itch.io, allowed me to force swap between Elden Ring and Silksong randomly every 30 to 60 seconds. So I could be in the middle of fighting a boss or doing a jump puzzle in one game, and then a switch could happen and throw me into the spikes or into the boss or whatever. Also, I don't want to overlevel or overpower my character in either game. This means no excessive grinding of runes or using a certain specific spirit ash in Elden Ring, no using any overpowered tools or abilities in Silksong. I just want the progression to be as natural as possible. I'm allowing myself to use a couple of the easier weapons in Elden Ring though, and I'm taking 2 needle upgrades in Silksong. I think this is fair because the bosses are going to get a couple free hits on me regardless with all the random switching and stuff. So I played through Silksong on release and I actually powered through to get all the achievements on Steam, and I enjoyed this experience so much that I went back to Hollow Knight and finished all the achievements there too. But I only started playing Elden Ring this last month, so being so new to the game and unfamiliar with quick and comfortable routing to the end, I decided to do a little bit of research after completing the game a couple times. Soul Obsession over on YouTube created a really concise video on how to comfortably complete Elden Ring in about 3 hours. I used the routing in this video as a baseline and changed a couple things because I was just uncomfortable with some of the routing. Also, I wanted some backup plans in case I lost or wasted significant amount of runes. So make sure to hit the like button. If you don't like this video, make sure you hit the dislike button twice so I know that you really didn't like it. Also, double check that you've subscribed. It really helps a lot. Both these games start off pretty calm. The first goal in Silksong was to head to Moss Mother. Meanwhile, over on Elden Ring, I went bungee jumping without a bungee cord, and just like that, I had my first death. Now that I got my flasks, I went through the door, up the elevator, and out into Limgrave to grab a couple sites of grace. I'll use these later. On the Switch, after getting to the Church of Ella, I made it to Moss Mother in Silksong. I pretty much shredded the boss, which, I mean, it makes sense. It's the first boss. I was able to beat her before the Shuffler swapped back to Elden Ring, which saved me from some free hits. Back in Elden Ring, I made a mad dash to touch Gatefront Grace. I met Melina, and I got Torrent. In Silksong, I went up the chapel and button mashed through the chapel maid's dialogue. In a quick swap to Elden Ring, I grabbed the Storm Stomp Ash of War from some ruins, ran past the Knight's Cavalry, grabbed a Somber Stone, and dropped down into the ravine to get invaded by Nerahus. Nerahus? I don't know how to pronounce this dude's name. I may or may not have fallen into some spikes a couple times over on Silksong due to some game swapping shenanigans. No, that definitely didn't happen. I think now's a good time to mention how the swapping actually works while using the Shuffler. When one game swaps to another, it completely pauses the game it just swapped away from. This is so you don't get wailed on by enemies in Elden Ring while you're running to a boss in Silksong, and we all know there's plenty of time spent running to bosses in Silksong, am I right? But there's a bit of a delay between visually switching and the game itself pausing, so you'll have moments like this where you attempt to jump over a gap and then a switch happens, and when you're switched back, you've already fallen into the pit and you took damage from the spikes. Anyways, I complete a small gauntlet and then start to make my way through the Marrow in Silksong while confronting Nerahus in Elden Ring. The strat for this fight's pretty easy. I pop the fire grease I picked up in the ravine, then I storm stomp, smack, dodge, storm stomp, smack, dodge, repeat. And just like that, Nerahus is down. I have my Reduvia and I'm touching Grace in Murkwater Cave. I meet a couple friendly merchants. Shout out to Espedy, by the way. If you haven't seen his Patches videos, you need to go check them out. They're so good. After a great talk with good old Patches, I teleported back to Murkwater Cave site of Grace, leveled up, ran back to Patches, took his teleporting services to Mistwood, and grabbed a Silk Spear over on Silksong. Mistwood had a couple things I needed to run around and grab before going northeast to the Third Church of America, where I picked up a Sacred Tear, picked up my Physic, and took the Waygate behind the church. While all this was going on, I'd started my encounter with Bellbeast in Silksong. This fight wasn't too crazy. It's the first boss that does 2 masks of damage on contact, but its attack patterns are pretty easy to learn and avoid. There was one swap mid-fight where I was going through Fort Height to get the Dectus Medallion left. Bars. But it was in the middle of a phase transition, so Bellbeast didn't get any free hits. And with Bellbeast down, I'd gotten my first Cell Cart and was on my way to Lace. It was time for a nice leisurely stroll through Grael's Dragon Burrow and the Marrow. Kinda like that one part in Demon Slayer where Inosuke's coming through. This'll make more sense later. I rang the bell behind Bellbeast, ran past the friendliest dragon on Earth, grabbed some runes, yeeted myself up a Spirit Spring, grabbed a craft metal, touched Fort Ferroth's side of Grace, grabbed a few things inside the fort, yeeted myself myself down a spirit spring, grabbed a sacred tear, and touched Grace at the Church of Plague, where I declined Melena's invitation to the Round Table Hold and set up my visit before teleporting back to the Church of Ella to upgrade a few things, level up, and talk to Kylie. All of this while I made my way through Deep Docks, completed a small Scar Gauntlet, and scooped up Swift Step. I want to mention here that I upgrade my flasks kind of randomly throughout the run and pick up golden seeds whenever I come across them. I also started my character with a golden seed. I'm not going to mention when I pick these up or when I upgrade my flasks, since you'll sort of see them as the run goes on. They're on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. I will mention the sacred tears though, since I go out of my way for most of them. It's time to talk about some bosses. Starting with the first Lace fight. This fight's a lot of fun. It's super similar to fighting Hornet and Hollow Knight. She does a lot of quick horizontal movement and jump attacks, and there's a bit of a learning curve at first, but after a bit of dodging, it's really not too hard to get into the swing of things. Also, shout out to Lace. She's my favorite character across both Hollow Knight games. The music in this fight is so beautiful, and it captures the character so well. Just give it a listen. Oh, right, this is a thing. On the Elden Ring side of things, I met Blythe, teleported back to First Steps Grace, made my way east to touch the Akil Lake south side of Grace, then southeast from there to the Forlorn Hound Everjail, while traveling through Farfield and Silksong and hitting the seamstress with a yo what up, accepting her quest before switching back to Elden Ring again and entering the Everjail to face Darrowell. You're really starting to see how chaotic this is. Like, imagine doing it, like playing it. Like, this is crazy. So using the Reduvia, I pretty much just spam the weapon skill to use the bleed build up to take him down pretty quickly. Blythe helps a lot in this fight by staggering the mini boss here and there, but he honestly wasn't even that necessary. With Darrowell down, I received my second broken weapon of the run, Bloodhound's Fang. Yeah, buddy, you all know how busted this thing is. During the Darrowell fight, I finished collecting the spines I needed. This was done quickly by slapping the spines midair. Anyway, I got the Drifter's Cloak now, time to fight the fourth course. I upgraded my Reduvia again with the Somber Stone that Blythe gave me and teleported to Gatefront Grace. From there, I went west to touch the Stormhill Shack side of Grace, and I grabbed a couple things before headed to Castlewood Tunnel. Back in Silksong, I'd entered the boss fight versus the fourth chorus. Strategy's pretty much jump over hand, don't let hand fall on top of you, smack the boss as much as you can. You can utilize the frames where their hands are down to use Silk Spear for some extra damage, and occasionally boulders will fall from the ceiling, but those are pretty easy to dodge too. You might be able to smack the boulders, I'm honestly not sure, I've never tried. At a certain point later on in the fight, 2 air currents will pop up on either side of the arena. You can use the Drifter's Cloak to fly up above the boss and smack a boulder loose from the ceiling and onto the boss's head, ending the fight. Easy game. There was only one switch in the middle of this fight, but it was during a boulder phase, so the boss didn't really do anything. Anyway, after swapping off a fourth chorus and back into Elden Ring, I summoned the Phantom outside of the arena in Castlewood Tunnel and entered the battle versus Margit. Okay, so for some reason, my brain does this weird thing where I read Margit as Margaret, and that just paints a picture of Muriel from Courage the Cowardly Dog in my head. I know they're totally different names, all three of them, but I don't know, man. So my strat here was to keep some distance while spamming Reduvia's weapon skill. This fight honestly could have gone a little better. There were quite a few switches that allowed Margit to get some free swings on me, but I wasn't dodging too great to begin with. I was climbing the air currents to Greymoor at the same time, so my focus was pretty split. Eventually Muriel went down and it was Stormvale Castle time, baby. I got my good buddy Gostock. The fuck's this guy's name? I got this dude to open the front gates for me, and then I rested the Grace to level up for a quick sprint through the castle. The game swapped on me a few times during the sprint, causing me to get bonked. Yeah, that's definitely the reason. During the switches, I melted a small gauntlet in Greymoor and was on my way to Morwing. Oh, and by this point, I'd unlocked the bell stations in Farfield and Greymoor. I'm honestly probably not going to talk about all the bell stations I unlocked, because, yeah, I mean, who cares, right? All right, so Morwing time. At literally the next switch mid-fight, I would start the boss battle versus Godric over in Elden Ring 2. So this will be my first time fighting 2 bosses at the same time, which is pretty sick. So the first time I ever fought Morwing, it gave me a little bit of trouble, but since then the boss has been nerfed. A lot of the old moves it used to do did 2 masks, and they just don't anymore. Also, I've got a lot better at the fight. Like I've fought Morwing a lot since then. So I approach different attacks from different angles and distances to easily dodge the boss. I do, however, slip up a couple times and take some contact damage, but luckily none of the mid-fight switches gave Morwing any free hits, and I was able to get some distance and heal myself when I needed to. Godric was a little tougher. I tried to keep a bit of distance so I could hit him with Reduvia weapon skill, kind of like how I did Margaret, but unfortunately in phase 2 this would be a problem because he's got this sick-ass dragon arm that just shoots fire at your face. So when phase 2 starts, the plan's usually to run in and spam Reduvia to get some quick bleed buildup, but this time for some reason I popped a flask and got fire breath in the face. Like, he look at this. So it's pretty easy for me to get caught in a loop of panicking, trying to heal myself up, and then getting smacked in the face, you know, over and over again. You'll see more of this later. This on top of the game swapping between two boss fights where I need to focus up at the same exact time really didn't do me any favors. So Morwing went down first and Godric quickly followed. Morwing was somewhat clean, but I ran out of flasks and had to get lucky with the bleed proc to finish Godric off. In Silksong, I ran through nasty ass Haunted Bellheart into Shellwood where I reached the Shellwood Gauntlet. In Elden Ring, I touched Grace at Liurnia of the Lakes, leveled up, dropped down to Church of Iris, grabbed the Sacred Tear, and started zooming through the lakes. Kind of like that one part in Demon Slayer where Inosuke's coming through. This will make more sense later. I bopped the Shellwood Gauntlet and continued towards Sister Splinter. Well, sort of. I touched the Laskiar ruins, Grace, and went northwest to pick up a few things from Patch's Emporium. I gotta keep my boy in business, you know, like Patches, he's great. Honestly, he is. He's really cool in this game. Like, I love Patches in Souls games, but like, I think this is probably my favorite Patches. I went northwest from here to give Boggart the old 1-2. I stole his iron balls while performing the sick skip in Shellwood so I wouldn't have to actually fight Sister Splinter. I learned the skip while watching Blue SR do some of his Silksong speedruns not long after the game came out. Blue is a absolute monster, and you gotta watch their stuff if you haven't. They've made some pretty cool Hollow Knight breakdown videos too. Anyways, after the Boggart ball stealing bonanza, I picked up a clean grip in Silksong and the dexterity knot crystal tier in Elden Ring before going back to Laskiar ruins and taking the way gate back to the Academy gate. At this point, I had reached Widow and was about to jump into another boss fight in Silksong. Honestly, Widow isn't hard to dodge at all. There are literal lines in the air where her bells are gonna fall. I mean, it didn't stop me from getting hit by a couple of them, but it is what it is, you know. Hey, don't judge me. Running under her when she does her scythe attack thingy and then dashing over her is a 100% certified dodge method. When she runs across the arena to perform her ground smash thing, it's really easy to just kind of cling to a wall and just not get hit. There's tons of openings to smack her, and as long as you aren't greedy like I was here, and here, the fight will go smoothly. During the first half of the Widow fight, I touched Grace at South Raya Lucaria Gate and did a sick trick jump off the bridge with Torrent and rode northwest to get the Academy Glitstone key from behind this dragon, because you know, dragon might. Eventually I was worn down to one mask, but I was in the zone. I ran in for another hit on Widow, and then the game switched back to Elden Ring. Okay, so at this point, I was at the mercy of the shuffler. If it decided to give Widow a free hit, this would be another death. I'd have to run all the way back from who knows where. Absolute nightmare. Remember what I mentioned about the delay between switches earlier? Time had already passed in Silksong. The switch had me holding my breath, and I was running through the next session of Elden Ring. My brain couldn't stop thinking about Silksong. It was crazy. I went up the elevator, dodged some magic laser beams, hit the Academy doors, but in the middle of the world's slowest door opening animation, the game switched back to Silksong. I was still alive, but I didn't have enough silk to heal. I remember thinking, when was the last time I rested at a bench? And I honestly couldn't remember. I saw an opening to attack and ran in for a quick 3 hits so I'd have enough silk to heal, and on the 3rd hit, Widow went down. Honestly, this is super lucky. I probably would have died if this was not the case. The needle in was mine, and it was awesome. Back in the Academy, I grabbed this rock and I started running around outside. I went across the bridge, up the ramp, down the ledge to grab the Carrion Knight set, then up another ramp through a quick mad dash to the elevator, and bang! Just like that, I hit the schoolhouse classroom. I did all this while doing some jump puzzles in Silksong, leading up to a really nice cutscene, actually. Anyways, the shuffler threw me back into Elden Ring, where I teleported back to South Raya Lucaria Gate to do another sick trick jump, but this time I went northeast and hopped in a way gate. Back in Bellheart, I paid my good friend Pinmaster plenty a visit, and I'm gonna be honest, I had no idea this was his name until now. I don't think I've ever really paid attention until writing this script. Anyway, this dude gave me my first needle upgrade. Nice. I'm glad we're best friends, whatever your name is. On the Switch, I touched Grace at King's Realm Ruins and said hello to my good friend Smithing Master Iji. I did know this guy's name. Iji's my boy. Anyways, I talked to Zero off about Blythe, bought one of everything, upgraded my Reduvia and Bloodhound's Fang, put on my new drip, swapped around my physic, equipped my new busted sword, not Buster sword. That's a totally different game. After all my prep was done, I went back to Schoolhouse Classroom. Back in Silksong Land, I unlocked the Bellheart Bell Station and traveled back to Bone Bottom. It was time to head to the very easy Wanderer's Chapel and very easily unlock the Wanderer's Crest, even though it's bonus. I don't need it to complete the game. It's not risky at all though, so that's good. Foreshadowing, according to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, is a term that means an indication of what is. In Elden Ring, I ran up some stairs, popped my physic, and hopped into the Red Wolf of Radigan boss fight. This was by far the easiest boss in the run, but it's pretty spicy. It does a decent chunk of damage if it smacks you. A few weapon skill hits, and the red magic fire sif is down. I'm gonna be real, I was not graceful in this boss fight, but that's the beauty of an easy boss like this. You don't have to be. You can just be goofy and trip and fall, and the boss is dead. Immediately after swapping off Elden Ring, it was Chapel of the Wanderer time. I sprinted down to the Gauntlet Room full speed with a ton of confidence, riding the high off of the Widow win and just absolutely disrespecting Red Sif, and yeah, I died, so what? Swapping back to Elden Ring again, I grabbed a couple things in the courtyard, did a couple sweet jumps, jogged upstairs, got a friendly pat on the back from my twin brother, and then switched back to Silksong, baby. And after my my death, I spawned all the way back in the Widow Arena. Dude, I really need to start sitting at some more benches. I ran back to Wanderer's Temple for take 2, but this time I stabbed some vines so I could unlock a shortcut, you know, just in case I died again. In Elden Ring, I smacked the door for good luck and then entered the Grand Library to start the boss fight versus Renala. I beat up some glowy kids to make their mom fall from the ceiling and popped off. I actually whoa with the weapon skill and finished this thing in like one cycle. It was crazy, actually. I don't think I've ever done this. Bing, bang, boom. One thing led to another, and now I'm back in Wanderer's Chapel. Look how seamless that transition was, though. Well, you know, besides me spamming the pause button, like, whatever. Anyways, I do the Wanderer's Temple thing for real this time. Actually unlocking the Wanderer's Crest, totally worth it. Definitely necessary to beat the game. Phase 2 Renala time. I'm walking on a lake in outer space or something. I don't know, I just work here. I smack Renala around a bit, dodge her laser beams and her spirit ashes, and she's down, baby. The fight did swap a few times, but in Silksong, I was literally mashing one button and watching the unlock animation for Wanderer's Crest, so it really made no difference. After the fight, I touched Grace and leveled up. Alright, so it was time to run a couple errands. In Silksong, I took the Bell Beast to the far lands to grab the Silk Speed anklets. In Elden Ring, I teleported back to Main Academy Gate. I touched the North Seal. I warped to Bellum Highway, where I touched Grace there, and then I equipped Boggart's Balls and went east to drop down sideways tombstone thingies on the side of the cliff, and then I made my way into Rhea Lucaria Crystal Tunnel, punched the hell out of the mini-boss at the end, and then it exploded, dropped a bell bearing. We had a party. Well, the boss didn't. The boss was dead, but you get the picture, okay? After getting the Silk Speed anklets, I scooted over to Sinner's Road. When I hit Sinner's Road, I was thrown back into Elden Ring, where I ran into Bellum Church and picked up the Sacred Tear. Then I went up the ramp towards Dectus Lift. I gotta be real, I was schmoving through Sinner's Road a little too fast. Eventually I had, if I had to guess, I'd say about 1,000 enemies on me before I got overwhelmed and died. Also, on my way to Dectus Lift, I jumped off the ramp a little early and died to fall damage. Anyways, I ran through Sinner's Road successfully this time, and I got to the mist. At the same time, I survived the run back to Dectus Lift and rode it up to Altus Plateau. So it said here that I hoist medallion in order to ride the lift, but like, what actually is hoistma? Well, we asked a normal guy what the answer to that question is.
I'm normal.
From there, I went north and touched Grace, then northwest to the Lux Ruins, sliced up the mini-boss, grabbed the thing, teleported back to the Grace. From there, I ran to Altus Highway Junction Grace, leveled up, and then kept going north along the road to the church, where I grabbed another Sacred Tear, ran northwest, jumped down the Spirit Spring, entered Old Altus Tunnel to pick up 4 Somber Stones, this one, this one, this one, and this one. Then I death warped back to Altus Highway Junction Grace. Yeah, death's a death, but at least this one was scripted. So during all that, I was absolutely just struggling in the mist, dude. Like, I fell a few times, I was worn down to 1 mask a few times, but hey, I didn't die. Eventually, I made it through and was finally in the exhaust organ. I powered through the organ as I ran through the gate to the east in Elden Ring before I touched Outer Wall Phantom Tree Grace. Kinda like that one part in Demon Slayer where Inosuke's coming through. This will make more sense later. On the Switch, it was time to fight Phantom. This fight's a lot like the Lace fight, but with a few quirks. Phantom was pretty easy to chip down, even with the switches between games. I played it safe, I didn't attack unless Phantom was completely open, and I avoided counters as much as I could. On the switch back to Elden Ring, I ran through Sealed Tunnel to grab another bell bearing here and a Somber Stone here before dying to the Iron Virgin here on purpose. After the Iron Virgin incident, I was in phase 2 of the Phantom fight. In phase 2, they start to kind of teleport around the arena. They do a big slam attack, but I mean, there's still plenty of openings to like heal yourself and run in and smack Phantom. They have a lot of health, so there's quite a few switches between games in this fight. In Elden Ring, I made my way north all the way to Outer Wall Battleground Grace, where I finally took up Melina on her offer to go to Round Table Hold. She has been begging me this whole time. Like, every time I rest, it asks me if I want to go, and I'm like, no, not yet. But now I was like, yes, let's do it. Let's go. Also, why is this cutscene so long? Like, we're leaning in to touch each other's hands for like 2 hours. Come on, let's pick up the pace. Let's go. I got stuff to do. Anyways, during that super long cutscene, Silksong switched back and I wrapped up the Phantom fight. Just like that, the path to the Citadel was open. In Round Table Hold, I talked to the Finger Lady to get another talisman pouch. Then I spoke to Hugh to upgrade both my OP weapons to +6. I leveled up and made my way to Draconic Tree Sentinel. I was pretty much in a liminal state here, running to the next boss in Elden Ring and running to the Citadel in Silksong. Honestly, it was pretty relaxing. Like, it's a nice little time to get a breath, you know? Draconic Tree Sentinel is a boss that always has me shaking in my boots, man. This dude used to be a hard wall for me, but recently I've kind of gotten the hang of it. The gist is when his horse is fireballing you, you shoot blood at him with Reduvia. When he charges you and hits you with his dragon tooth or whatever, wait for the second hit and then hit him with some bloodhound action. Dodge the red lightning at a specific timing and bang, you're done. While that all sounds great on paper, well, I mean, I'll let you watch the fight for yourself. Look. So as you saw, I barely survived. All my flasks were gone. I had like 2 HP left or something, but hey, I didn't die. Oh, and I also managed to make it the first shrine in Silksong, so that's cool. Pretty much immediately after defeating Draconic Tree Sentinel though, I was pushed into a fight with Cogwork Dancers. This fight's honestly pretty safe and borderline cheesable if you camp in the corner, never move out of it, and only hit the bosses when they're close to you. A switch to Elden Ring mid-fight caused me to get hit, but otherwise the fight went pretty well. Also, I decided to jump off a building and die in Lanegel Capital while fighting them, so that happened. After beating up robots, I jumped down into Cogwork Core and got beat up by robots while running to the Avenue Balcony Grace in Elden Ring. I ignored Melina again and leveled up. Oh, I also died here in Silksong during a switch while moving through Cogwork Core. You'll love to see it. After Cogwork Core, I walked into a gauntlet and Whispering Vaults where I just absolutely didn't dodge anything. It's fine, I survived. During the gauntlet, I ran down the sewers to grab the Somber Stone and say hello to my favorite killer lobster. I stepped out into the street, punched a tree. It punched me back. Yeah, it was a good time. After the gauntlet and the tree punching, I unlocked a shortcut to the first shrine, which was now Songclave, and I teleported to Fort Feroth, ran past some dragons, grabbed this grace, this somber stone, and then went west over this chasm and grabbed this grace, rested at it, and then snuck over and grabbed this greatsword. All this was done while running through the Whispering Vault, solving a puzzle, grabbing some pale oil, and then back to my best friend, what's his name, to upgrade my needle a second time. Baby, let's go. From there, I went back to EG, upgraded Reduvia to +8, leveled up, and then teleported to the Church Plague. I went down the cliff and over to the Waygate near Redmane Castle where I jumped a scarab and stole his crag blade, and then I went through the Waygate. I felt like I was moving through the game a little too quickly in comparison to Elden Ring, and I just sort of started exploring the Citadel to see what I could find, because, I mean, why not? I ended up running into a gauntlet. It was great. Anyways, I ran into Redmane Castle, talked to my boy Jaren to trigger the Radon Festival, went down the elevator to the beach, through the Waygate into the Wailing Dunes, and started the Radon boss fight. So, like, in this fight, I abused the hell out of the NPC phantoms. You can summon like 6 of them at a time, and when they die, you just resummon them. Dude, it's pretty busted. He was distracted the entire fight, so I just kept my distance and shot blood at his face. This chunked him down pretty quick, and I ended up only using like 1 flask to heal myself. So, like, even the switches weren't that punishing. I feel pretty slimy about this one, I'm not gonna lie. After the gauntlet, I snapped out of my daydream and ran to Trobio, stole his pin, unlocked a shortcut, leveled up in Elden Ring, made Alexander explode. Sorry, buddy. Then I initiated the boss battle versus Trobio. This dude's probably my second favorite boss fight and character in the whole game. This music's perfect, the character's hilarious, I love how dramatic he is, and I mean, come on, he's just trying to put on a show. Not very different from me right now, to be honest. While I'm fighting Trobio, I teleport back to Avenue Balcony Grace, run downstairs, climb a dragon, touch this grace, run up the roots, and initiate the boss battle versus the Godfrey Golden Shade. Here we are, once again, fighting 2 bosses at the same time. So by this point, I'm reaching the tail end of the Trobio fight, so let's talk about this dude. He's got a few cool flashy moves, keyword flashy. Most of them are pretty easy to dodge, as the mechanics are don't touch the shiny light. He'll throw little firework balls at you, and you can either smack them away or dodge. Before they blow up, they telegraph the area where the explosion's gonna hit. You can either smack them again to avoid this altogether, or you can just like not stand in the blast zone and just not get hit. Trobio will occasionally turn into like a little twister. The easiest way for me to handle this has always been to kind of jump over him and then run away from wherever he's going. 2 smaller little twisters fly up from him as this move ends, so being at a distance works to dodge this pretty much every time. He can jump under the stage and either throw some more of the firework balls or he pops out. And in phase 2, he'll do a little firework transition where you just have to avoid the shiny before he pops out of the stage. Seriously, most of this fight is just avoid the shiny and you'll be fine. This is a fun fight and it gets pretty fast paced and hectic toward the end, but I love it. And honestly, if you're having trouble with this fight, personally, like, I think just enjoy it and eventually you'll learn it and it'll be over and you'll be sad. Anyway, with Trobio out of the way, let's check out Godfrey Golden Shade. This fight's pretty predictable, like jump or dodge when he stomps, dodge his big ass axe, shank him a couple times with the Reduvia when you can between his swings or at the end of his combos. It's very, very straightforward, and the whole idea is just to not get greedy. Like here, you see like the first 25% of his health bar, I was being absolutely super mega greedy and I just got smashed until I realized I wasn't being patient. After that, I just started stabbing him and dodging literally every attack, and eventually he was down. The switches in both these fights not only allowed the bosses to get a couple free hits, but most of the damage I took across both fights were because I was being greedy. So like, I mean, I didn't die, so there's that. While wrapping up the Godfrey Golden Shade and leveling up after, I picked up the Sacred Cylinder, and then I made my way through Whispering Vaults to turn it in. In Elden Ring, I ran up the roots and rested at Queen's Bedchamber before summoning Melina, who honestly, I had no idea you could summon in this fight until this run. I was really hype when I realized, like, Melina, the one who wanted me to go to Round Table Hold with her so bad, my maiden, Melina, we get to see her fight. That's actually sick. Anyways, me and my maiden enter the fight versus Margaret part 2. Honestly, dude, you can change the name from Margit to Morgoth all day, and I still picture Muriel from Courage the Cowardly Dog. Like that's her. So my strat here is to keep my distance the best I can and spam my Reduvia weapon skill, but he moves so quickly, and I wasn't used to having a helper in this fight, so sometimes he'd randomly turn around and attack Melina. Needless to say, I was missing a lot. He'd sometimes randomly turn to me when I wasn't expecting it and hit me with a sucker punch. Honestly, I'll be the first to admit I need more practice dodging this dude. Eventually, with the help of Melina randomly tanking like all of Morgoth's attacks, I stabbed him to death, and that was that. Thank God. What a fight. While I was being Muriel's punching bag, I ran up to Vault Keeper Cardinius and learned the Vault Keeper's melody. Man, he really didn't want me to play this. Look at this dude. Afterwards, I touched the Erdtree's Thorn Wall, spammed through more of Melina's dialogue, got the roll medallion, and leveled up. From there, I teleported back to the Avenue balcony and ran out the front gates of Landel. In Silksong, I did some lava parkour and grabbed Clawline. I also grabbed this yummy exalted flesh in Elden Ring, and then I got thrown right back into Lava Danger Land. Yippee! On my way out of the Underworks, I ran into a small gauntlet with a couple splody guys, some flying guys, another splody guy. Oh, and I'm back in Elden Ring, up the elevator, a big guy, some more splody guys. You get the picture. After the gauntlet, I crossed the bridge, I grabbed the Flame Drake Talisman +1, I crossed this bridge, unlocked the fast travel tube thing, and oh look, I'm back in Songclave. The plan from here is to get to Cogwork Core and climb that thing. Okay, so check this out. This switch is hilarious. I've never ever been hit by this enemy before, but on this switch back to Elden Ring, this knight is just absolutely going to town on me with this spear. Anyway, after that, I healed up and took the elevator down to the Forbidden Lands. I just want to say the Cogwork Core is an absolute nightmare to me. In the middle of trying to climb this thing, the shuffler swapped me back into Elden Ring, and I ran far enough through the Forbidden Lands to pass the Knight's Cavalry and was thrown right back into Silksong, and I immediately took damage thanks to being mid-jump on the switch. Okay, shuffler, I see you. I ran through the lower half of the core and unlocked the shortcut to the top and entered the area. From there, I clawlined to the first ring and was thrown right back into Elden Ring, where I grabbed the Somber Stone and the giant skull, and then turned to book it toward the Grand Lift rolled. Interacting with the lift made for a pretty satisfying, seamless transition back into Cogwork Core, I'm not gonna lie. So here it said that I hoist medallion to use the lift, but what even is hoistma? Well, we hired former SM64 speedrunner JJ902 to answer that question.
Just let that sink in.
I did some more parkour, and I'm honestly pretty proud of myself. Like, look at how patient I'm being, taking my time, waiting for enemies and cogs to pass before, and switched back to Elden Ring mid-jump. There was barely enough time to run into Zamor runes before getting switched back to take some damage from a cog. Thankfully, these things have been nerfed and only do 1 mask of damage now. They used to do 2. Crazy, actually. Anyways, a few tricks, jumps, and parkour flips later, I land on a nice little platform, and I'm finally given a safe swap out of Silksong. I got the bell bearing from the treasure room, and straight into the mountains I went. Back in the Cogwork Mountain, I was trying to move a bit too fast and forgot to allow my silk to build back up before trying to claw line to higher rings. It didn't slow me down too much though, because before I knew it, I'd made it to the top safe and sound. I was just a puzzle away from getting another song. Back in Elden Ring, I was crossing the big stone bridge on Torrent. Can we take a moment to appreciate Torrent? Like, look at this little guy. I want one. I smacked some levers, grabbed this huge scarab for a somber stone after the bridge, smacked some more levers, ran on some snow with my buddy Torrent, smacked even more levers, and finally finished the puzzle. You know, I don't actually have this puzzle memorized, and watching speedrunners do this part just absolutely blows my mind. That's 2 out of 3 songs done. Meanwhile, I'm still running around the mountaintops of the giants. It's actually kind of wild how much running there is. Like, look at this huge lake with nothing in it that I have to... Oh, hi Borealis. After running into the second world's friendliest dragon, I grabbed the sacred tear and head northwest toward the next boss. In Silksong, I was trying to figure out the safest way to float down from the top of the Cogwork Core and jumped into a cog on my own with no help from the shuffler and died. I respawned at the top of the core and started to float down all over again. As soon as I grabbed my silk cocoon thingy, I was thrown right back into Elden Ring, where I grabbed a couple runes from this graveyard and jumped up the Spirit Spring. Back in Silksong again, and to be honest, I probably should have floated down to the right of these cogs right here, but I mean, hindsight's 2020, am I right, fellas? Anyways, I brute forced it with some claw lines and floated down out of here. Finally, back on solid ground. I continued through the mountains toward the boss arena in Elden Ring while sprinting to high halls in Silksong. This was another one of those weird liminal moments in the gameplay where I was kinda able to breathe, definitely not struggling with any spikes, switches, or enemies along the way. Yeah, definitely not. Eventually, I got to the foot of the Forge Grace and High Halls. This is where I started to feel the adrenaline kind of start to creep back into my body. There's not much that I dread more than the Fire Giant and Elden Ring and High Halls Gauntlet and Silksong. Like, these are really big problem areas for me, and I was about to have to do them both at the same time. I moved through High Halls as fast as I could while also doing some prep for Iron Giant. I grabbed the Sacred Tear from Searcher Repose and Death Warped using the Invader. On the switch, I just peacefully floated down High Halls. I took a little detour to grab this definitely fair and balanced tool. Don't worry, I don't use it. I honestly don't even know why I grabbed it. I went to see EG, floated down High Hall some more, grabbed this pre-gauntlet bench, upgraded my Bloodhound's Fang to +9, swapped around my equipment a little, leveled up, initiated High Hall's gauntlet, and ran into the Fire Giant arena. Okay, so let's talk about HHG. This is by far the hardest part of the game for me. It's overwhelming without having to swap back and forth between games, and I rarely completed on my first try, so check this out. I took a few free hits on switches, but otherwise, I popped off. I played it safe and prioritized specific enemies, so like attacking the Claw Maidens as soon as they spawned was super important, otherwise they'd yoink my silk in a bad way. I also stayed right under the Maestros and focused on dodging their cogflies. Everything else was cool as long as I didn't get greedy. Alright, so in Elden Ring, I was fighting Fire Giant. Like, look at this dude. He's huge. My strat here is to not lock onto him so I can actually see him, and then focus dodging while smacking him in the left heel. For some reason, he just takes bonkers damage when you hit him there. In phase 2, the plan is to spam heavy charged attacks till he staggers, and then if he staggers, I'll smack him in the eye till he gets back up, and from there I just keep distance, dodge, don't get greedy, etc. So yeah, that sounds pretty good. Easy, right? Alright, so this is what it looks like when you fight them both at once. So I got lucky with a pretty ideal Fire Giant fight. This fight went pretty much exactly as I planned. I even smacked him with a lucky stagger in phase 2, but High Hall's Gauntlet was way scarier. So I got a bit greedy, and I used some silk for his Silk Spear to finish off one of the 2 choir clappers in the last wave, and then the second one just started slapping me around, and I had to finish the fight with 1 mask. It was really scary. The Shuffler blessed me with a little extra time before a switch here, and I actually finished the gauntlet before jumping back into Elden Ring. And finally, I lit up the Erd Tree and learned the conductor's melody, the final song. So at this point in the run, I was hype. I had just one-shotted the 2 things that I had been worrying about for like the last couple hours. The next steps were to head to the cradle and run through crumbling Farum Azula. I got jumped by some beastmen. That's another death. I leveled up at this Grace, played this Silksong or whatever, and hopped in the elevator. This took me to the cradle and started the second Lace fight. This is probably my favorite fight in the run. Lace moves almost exactly like she does in the first fight, but she's a little quicker with some longer combos. Also, the fight starts like right after the elevator cutscene, which is wild. Like, you have no time to get ready for this if you skip the cutscene. It's crazy. Anyways, I ran past a dragon, touched this Grace, dodged this guy, caught some hands from Lace on a switch, finished Lace off with Trobio's Mirror, which is hilarious, summoned this guy to help with Godskin Duo, and entered the Godskin Duo fight. So I've heard a lot of horror stories about Godskin Duo, but I don't think I've ever had issues with this fight. Either way, I summoned the NPC here to be safe. My plan was to focus down one of them as fast as I could. That way there weren't 2 bosses going at me at the same time. They respawn after a bit. There's usually enough time to finish the other one off before that happens. I zerged down the Apostle as fast as I could and staggered it before it could get any of its special moves off, and then I focused on the Noble down to about 50%. That's when it started its big rolling attack, so I used one of the pillars to get it stuck and I spammed heavy attacks on it from there. With the Noble down, it was basically just spawn camping shenanigans, and I actually had time to listen to the music and just sit and not worry about anything, and I gotta say, I just love the music in this fight. It's so sick. With Godskin Duo down, I leveled up and started my run to Malekith. In Silksong, I unlocked the shortcut to the cradle, and then I made a pretty bad call. In Elden Ring, I ran down the world's most dangerous street, grabbed the Somber Stone, and then I floated down below Whispering Vaults into Biowater to grab something. Something that was crying out to me in the dark. Something cursed. Also, I really jacked up the interaction with this elevator and made a new friend. Like, look at these flips and shit. This is crazy. Like, this actually scared me. I really didn't want to do the bird run again. I did end up making it up the elevator where I touched Grace, grabbed the Twisted Bud, and then jumped into some spikes to death warp out of there on Silksong. From there, I maxed out my Bloodhound's Fang and was ready for Malekith. So I ran up these stairs toward the boss arena versus Malekith, or I mean, well, the Beast Clergyman. This fight isn't that bad once you learn the movesets and when to dodge. Beast Clergyman has little tells in his movesets that allow you to anticipate what he's gonna do next, with some attacks leaving him pretty open to a smack or 2. After a couple deaths, I finally pushed forward into phase 2. While I was fighting Malekith, I was running around Shellwood looking for Greyroot. I eventually found them, but it took way too long because I forgot where they were. I also found a couple of the polyp parts during the Malekith fight. Oh, and I died here because I was just kind of running around Shellwood with 1 mask like a psycho. Anyways, my strat for Malekith phase 2 was pretty hit or miss. The plan was to pop him with a couple fully charged heavies, stagger him, smack him with a critical hit, then immediately follow up with a weapon skill wombo combo to finish him off. Sounds good, right? Definitely gonna work first try, right? So I waited behind this little spot on the ground for his big swing, and then I took a step forward and hit him with the 1-2, bam, bam, and I got the stagger, baby! So like, for some reason, this doesn't always happen for me, but whatever, it did this time. So I stab him in the face and then immediately follow up with the Bloodhound's Finesse. The first swing missed, so he was sitting at about 12%. I got smacked around a bit, dodged a couple attacks, and barely finished him off. I couldn't believe it. I was so hyped, man. I touched the Ashen Capital Grace, found another polyp heart, went to Round Table Hold, gave the twins these things, things, found another polyp part, bought 12 of each smithing stone, upgraded the great sword to plus 24, leveled up, teleported here, got smacked around by Knights Cavalry on a switch, then finished them off for Giant Hunt, teleported back to the capital, and then I changed my equipment around to prep for the Gideon fight. So the plan was just to absolutely bop Gideon. The fight's honestly kind of funny. Like, I popped my physic, ate some exalted flesh, ran in, gave him the old 1-2 with a couple fully charged heavies, then I spammed Giant Hunt on him till he died. I did get smacked around a couple times by his magic, but it was pretty easy to hide behind the pillars in the arena and hit him with a sneak attack or two to finish him off. It ain't easy being cheesy. After disrespecting the hell out of Gideon, I ran up to the Queen's bedchamber and leveled up. So, I was not supposed to do that. Those runes were supposed to go toward upgrading Boggart's balls to plus 24. Luckily, I had a backup plan, and it was called Stab a Dragon for 15 minutes. Before I did this, I went to Aghill Lake South and obliterated this rune bear for our larval tiers so I could respec before the last two bosses. After definitely not being totally lost in Shellwood, I found polyp part number 5 and polyp part number 6 completely on my own with no help from a map online whatsoever. I definitely didn't look this up. Don't dig deeper into this. I turned in the polyp parts, gave Greyroot the Twisted Bud, and was officially cursed. Being cursed is pretty suck. Like, I don't know why I did this. I couldn't use any tools, I couldn't use any silk skills, and I couldn't heal at all. I didn't realize it then. This was a huge mistake. I ran to Grandmother Silk and well, 1 hit, 2 hits, and bang, my first GMS death of many. With the last dragon down, Boggart's balls fully upgraded, Crag Blade installed, equipment swapped around, a second Grandmother Silk death under my belt, and a quick respec to pump strength, I was officially on the home stretch in both games. It was happening. So with Grandmother Silk, I was just sort of throwing myself at her, dodging as her attacks came through and smacking her non-stop. This was obviously not an effective strategy considering I was cursed and swapping between games every 30 to 60 seconds. The best way to tackle this fight would be to smack GMS 1 or 2 times after she attacks and then wait a bit for her to attack again and then just repeat from there. On the Elden Ring side of things, I entered the encounter versus Godfrey. So Godfrey's first phase is a lot like the Golden Shade. Actually it's pretty much identical other than a few extra combos and room-wide AoEs. A lot of it's being patient and dodging his swings while smacking him with a heavy attack when he gives you openings between combos. Phase 2 is versus Horalu Warrior. Dude kills his own lion and just goes wild. He opens up with an attempted grab attack, so the plan is to smash him with some heavies and hope for a stagger. If he staggers, you smack him with some more heavies, dodge for a bit, and a few heavies later he's down. So check out how it really went. I was immediately shown how much of an impact these switches had on these fights. I was still being pretty greedy versus GMS. Like, look at these greedy ass close calls. Eventually I was taken out for another death, and on the switch back to Elden Ring, I smacked Godfrey a few times, but I was disoriented from the switch and I got a little too greedy and took an axe to the face. I recovered and then the fight went pretty well for a bit before I missed time to dodge and got caught in a combo. Then I was stuck in that loop I talked about earlier where I was trying to heal myself while panicking and then I kept getting smacked and then I tried to heal myself again. But eventually I recovered and then was switched back into Silksong where I was making the run back to the boss. When I was thrown back into Elden Ring, Godfrey got a free hit off and then he did his mini phase change slow-mo stomp thing. I took this opportunity to heal up and then hit him a few more times and this triggered the Horalu phase change. I smacked Horalu with a couple fully charged heavies and unfortunately I didn't get the stagger here. He ended up kicking me in the face and then he went for a grab and just before the grab went off, I was switched back into Silksong. Grandmother Silk smacked me, I smacked Grandmother Silk, it was a party. I was eventually thrown back into the Horalu fight. I somehow dodged the grab and he went for another room-wide attack. I used this chance to smack him a couple more times and I still didn't get that stagger, man. A handful of dodges later, he finally got me with a misdodged stomp attack and about 15% health remaining. Honestly, I can't believe I almost got this first try. I was still pretty hyped. I wasn't even mad about dying here. Like, I would have done a backflip IRL if I would have beat him here. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Now that you have an idea of what I was going for across both these fights, it's time for a good old-fashioned death montage. Here we go. Finally, I was blessed with a stagger on Horalu, and this allowed me to take the win. I leveled up and ran into the final boss encounter of Elden Ring. So, just throwing this out there, why do the final bosses in both of these games flashbang you? Like, the screen just goes full white, I'm blind for the first 15 seconds of the boss fight. Like, why? So for both the Radagon and the Elden Beast fights, the plan was to smack them both with as many fully charged heavy attacks as possible until I got a stagger. Once they staggered, it was just a regular heavy attack spam fest until I won. So I ran into the Radagon fight, and I opened up with 2 fully charged heavies. Then I misjudged the timing of a couple of his swings and he gave me a taste of his hammer. Not that one. I recovered, dodged his next combo, and then smacked him with a fully charged heavy attack. Here, I actually got greedy and went for a second heavy attack that wasn't charged. Since it wasn't fully charged, it didn't stagger him and he just punished the hell out of me. I recovered, dodged a slam, then bang, bang, 2 more fully charged heavies. This staggered him, and I got 3 regular heavies off on him before he teleported away and started slamming. I dodged the first one, dodged the second one, slapped him before the third, and was thrown back into Silksong right before the last slam hit the ground. So you already know that last slam hit me. I dodged a couple hits from Grandmother Silk, but I was eventually taken out. I was still being pretty greedy, so I mean, it is what it is. On the run back to GMS, I was swapped back into Elden Ring, where Radigan smashed me immediately with his last hammer slammer. I got up, healed, got hit in the head with a hammer a couple more times, healed again, dodged some lasers, and took 1 more hammer to the face before I finally defeated Radigan. While he was falling over, I healed up and popped my physic. I made it to the Elden Beast arena, and I just want to say this boss is beautiful. I am a huge fan of its design. Bloodborne is my favorite game, and I think this boss design has so much in common with the great ones in that game, and I just love it. It's so well done. Anyways, I ran in and hit Elden Beast with 2 fully charged heavy attacks. Then I ran behind it on its Holy Breath wind-up and let loose 2 more fully charged heavies before being swapped back into Silksong. On the switch, I fell into some spikes on the run back to Grandmother Silk. I didn't want to start the boss fight without full health, and I couldn't heal myself naturally because of the curse that I did to myself, so I had to run back to the bench. Back in Elden Ring, the boss teleported away from me, so I hopped on Torrent, jumped over his big sky attack thingy, got close to the boss, dodged a couple slices, and started trying to hit it with some more fully charged heavies. I only got 1 off before I was thrown back into Silksong again, where I challenged Grandmother Silk, and the shuffler swapped me right back into Elden Ring. Is it just me, or are these switches way more frequent now? I got 4 hits off on Elden Beast and finally got a stagger, but not before it used its Elden Stars. I smacked it with a couple regular heavy attacks before I realized the Elden Stars went off, so I hopped on Torrent, healed up, and got out of there. Elden Beast flew up to do its big sky attack Super Smash Beam again, so I jumped over those, spent some more time with Grandmother Silk, then I ran up to Elden Beast and got body slammed off a Torrent. Like, look at that, this dude did not see this coming. I healed up, got smacked, healed again, hit the boss a couple times, dodged grab, and smacked it with 3 more heavies before it teleported away. Dude, here, my heart was racing. The boss was at very low health. Elden Beast shot some laser beams into the sky, so I ran sideways on Torrent to dodge them, but I hit the edge of the arena and had to turn around. Honestly, it felt like the boss knew this was happening, so it did its big sword disc laser attack and just absolutely deleted me. I won that fight in an alternate universe, I'm just saying. So from here, I died a lot. And just like that, Radigan and Elden Beast were down. I'd finally beaten Elden Ring, and Silksong was right behind it, because on the very next attempt of Grandmother Silk, I completed Silksong. Just kidding, I died again, LOL! It took me like 30 more minutes to beat Grandmother Silk. Finally, Grandmother Silk was defeated. With only 66 total deaths and 8 hours 22 minutes later, I'd gotten the cursed ending and completed my challenge of beating Elden Ring and Silksong at the same time.